Hey friends, this is a really cool collection of some of my favorite Filipino recipes. Now these are some of my most loved recipes on my channel. I have a slow cooker version of kare, I have a one-pan pancit noodle, and this really lovely sticky pork adobo. Enjoy! Deeply savory, melt in your mouth beef stew is one of those universal loves. This is my slow cooker version of Filipino beef and peanut stew. So this is actually a follower request. We had a request to make kare beef stew, and I have to say, it's not something I had made at home before, so I was really excited to give this a try, and even more excited because it's got like, you know, it's almost like this slightly kind of peanutty satay kind of vibe to it with the stew and the peanuts, and honestly, when I tried it out, I was like, yes, this is my kind of beef stew. Really good, really good. Okay, so even if you haven't heard of it before, please do give it a try. Let's get into looking at our beef though. So this is typically made with oxtail. It's an oxtail beef stew, but the oxtail at my market this morning wasn't just looking that great. It wasn't like really meaty and yum. So I'm going with an ossobuco cut today, which is from the shank rather than the tail, but it will do the same sort of job with that connective tissue. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. Now, even though I'm going to be putting this in my slow cooker, I want to start it off in the pan so I get some really nice color on my beef. A little more salt, a little more pepper. And the base of any really good stew, whether you're talking about like a French beef bourguignon or you're talking about this particular Filipino beef stew, is that you want to really layer the flavors. So you start off getting a really lovely beefy flavor with this caramelization. Have a look at this color. It's exactly what we want. And then from here, we can start to go in with our aromatics and then finally our liquids. So that's kind of the way I think about it when I'm doing a stew. This color is looking really great. What I might do is grab my slow cooker and my beef pieces can go straight in there. Now I've got some oil and fat left in here in the pan, and the really interesting thing with this dish is using annatto seeds, that's these guys here, these red seeds, to flavor and color that oil. So you'll see what I'm talking about here. Pop the seeds in, and then immediately you'll see you start to get this really lovely ruby red color here. Now I know annatto seeds aren't widely available everywhere. Do try and search them out online or from an Asian or Filipino grocery store. But if not, you could just add a little bit of sweet paprika here to give you a little bit of that red color. It does have a little bit of like a florally musty kind of fragrance to it, but mainly it's about that beautiful red color. Once the seeds have done their job though, you want to take them out. So leave the oil behind and just take out the seeds. To that oil, I'm going to add some onion. Ah, look at that color, it's just so vibrant and amazing. I love that. Some garlic. And a little bit of salt here. Salt always helps when you are sauteing onions. Now the other clever thing that I want to do here is deglaze my pan with just a little bit of the beef stock I'm going to be using for this recipe. This will lift off any of that flavor that's stuck to the bottom of the pan. There we go. And then into my slow cooker pot. My next ingredient here is really a little bit more about texture than anything. So I'm taking this sticky rice. This is a glutinous rice or a sticky rice, and it's raw. I'm going to put it into my frying pan and then toast it up. And we're going to make a ground roasted rice, and it does give you a little bit of like a toasty, peanutty flavor, which is really great. And it also thickens up your stew sauce. So see how everything is really lovely, deeply dark and golden. You'll kind of get a bit of like a popcorn kind of smell when it's ready. Now I'll put that in here and then just grind that to a really fine powder. Add that to my other ingredients, along with some peanuts and some eggplant, some peanut butter, and then the rest of my beef stock. So at this point, I just like to give everything a little bit of a mix. My lid goes on. Now, the cooking time really depends on your slow cooker. I've got a high and low setting, so if I turn this to high, this is gonna cook in about 3 hours. If you're doing it on a low setting, that's gonna take 6 to 8 hours. Sometime later. Ooh, boo, boo. So now I think we're looking pretty good. Let's have a look in here. Ah, yes. I love when something else does all the hard work for you. I really do like slow cooking because you don't have to sit there and watch it on the stovetop and be stirring it. You just kind of set it and forget it, which is great. And then here's the thing, I really like to do this kind of seasoning thing at the end after all those ingredients have really softened up and really developed their flavors. So here at the end, I'm gonna add in some vinegar, fish sauce, brown sugar. Now I do want to add some extra bits and pieces here. I'm going in with some snake beans. You could use green beans if you can't get a hold of snake beans, but it is a far more classic addition for this Filipino dish. They're kind of like, if you haven't seen a snake bean before, they're like long, much longer than a green bean. I find that they have a little bit more of a kind of like, it's almost a bit more of a chalky texture and a slightly more medicinal kind of flavor than a regular sort of more sweeter green bean, if you like. But either would be fine. I'm gonna pop those in and then pop the lid back on another 20 minutes just to let those extra seasonings make friends in there. So now I think we should be good. Let's have a look. Very nice. I mean, the thing that I love about this is that this beef should be uber tender. If you have a look in here, just break that open. Oh, so good. That makes me happy. So here we go. Spoon out some of that really lovely, like peanutty, shiny kind of sauce along with your beef. And see how that eggplant's really kind of like broken down and also like helped to thicken up that sauce as well. Oh, so good. So the classic way to serve this is with some steamed rice and yeah, just dig in there. Now I think with any good beef stew, you should be able to pass what I call the spoon test. So spoon goes in and that beef should just melt away. Look at that, so soft and tender. Wow, I mean, so much great flavor there. It's such a comforting kind of dish. I really, you know, I can see now why so many people have been requesting this dish because it must carry so much like family nostalgia. I feel like it's one of those kind of family dishes that you would have eaten growing up and just always craved as you got older. Oh, I love that. Thanks guys for recommending this one to me. Please do let me know about any other recipes you would love to see me feature on my channel. I love hearing from you guys. And also tell me if you've got a different version of this dish as well. I love to hear all the different versions, ideas, suggestions, comments. So come at me, let me know. All right, I can eat more of this curry. Filipino adobo. This is like, it's like the impossible dish. It is tangy, but it's creamy. And wow, that pork is so lush and tender and all sorts of yum. This is my version of Filipino pork adobo. Okay, so there are loads of different Filipino adobo recipes. My goodness, I've been through so many. This one is a recipe that I like to cook at home with pork. So I've done a chicken one for you guys. You can check that out on my channel. But this one is a pork and coconut version. So here we go. The first thing I want to do is talk about the pork itself. So you could use pork belly for this one. That's great as well. I often like to use a cut of pork that's called pork scotch. also called pork shoulder. I've seen it sold as Boston butt as well. It comes from the shoulder neck part of the pig, and the reason why I really like it is that it has some really great connective tissue, some fat, and that kind of dissolves down to make everything really soft and tender and gelatinous and beautiful in the sauce. So that's why I like to go with this one. You can buy it in a big hunk like this, or it often comes sold as steaks, so pork Scotch fillet steak, and that will look something like this. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, as I said, pork belly is good as well. And some nice thick steaks here because I want nice big chunks. And then some strips, and then some nice decent sized cubes here. Something roughly like that. Okay, so get those into a bowl. And then the key technique for any adobo is the combination of like a vinegar and soy sauce marinade. So I'm using just some regular soy sauce here. And then coconut vinegar is the more traditional vinegar to use, but I've done this with apple cider vinegar and even white vinegar as well. So plenty of options there. And now a few aromatics. I've got some peppercorns and some dried bay leaves. All right, let's mix that up. And this is a really simple dish, but it does require a little bit of patience on your behalf. I'm gonna pop this into the fridge for 30 minutes, and that's gonna let that soy sauce and the vinegar really work its magic and get right in there. And the next thing is like a little extra step that is optional, but it really does help with the browning process in the pan. So what I'm gonna do is get this pork out and onto some paper towel, and I want to dry it off because of course anytime you're doing any browning, moisture or liquid is going to be your enemy. So the drier we can get our pork pieces, the more caramelization and beautiful color and all that good stuff, all of that, more of that stuff is going to happen in the pan. Okay, just get some more towel and just blot that dry, or as dry as you can get it. Now make sure you keep a hold of that marinade, we're going to use it a little later. So I'm going to get a little bit of fat coming from the pork as well, so I don't need too much oil in there. And let's do this in batches, friends. That's going to get even more browning and more color. You know, it's just these little steps, I think, that really make a big difference when you're cooking at home. Okay, sizzle, just what we want. And as that meat browns, keep it turning. And now if you have a look in the bottom of the pan here, that is pure flavor. All that brown goodness in there, that's what's gonna start to layer our beautiful slow braise. And with slow braising, it's all about layering the flavor. Okay, so our pork should have some nice color. Our pan should also have some nice color. Check that out. Now let's get on to making the rest of this dish. We want some onion. Now you should have enough fat and good stuff in the bottom of that pan to get that onion straight in there. If it starts to look a little dry as the onion cooks, just add a little bit more oil. Let's see how we go. Okay, just toss those onions around a bit. And I want to add in some garlic. Just a little smattering of chili flakes here. I don't want this to be super spicy, but I do love the little bit of warmth that you get from a little pinch of chili flakes. Now to help those onions soften up, become nice and sweet, I'm gonna add a little bit of salt here. And again, this is about layering the seasoning, layering the flavor. Now just turn that heat down a smidgen. I want the onions to soften up a little. I don't want that garlic to burn, so keep everything moving in there. Just a few minutes. Okay, that's looking good. Let's get our pork back in there. Now the coconut vinegar marinade that we saved earlier, I want to get that in there as well. And just some water here as well to give us enough liquid to really braise and soften up that pork. Now just have a look at the color of that sauce already. Just that little extra time to get some good caramelization really makes all the difference. And just wait for that to come to a gentle bubble. I don't want a hard and fast simmer here. I want a really nice, gentle, relaxing kind of bath time for our pork. put the lid on, just leave it to do its thing for 30 minutes. So let's take a look at what we've got going on in here. Okay, so this is looking good, but I did warn you that we have to be a little patient with this one, guys. I'm not done here yet. I'm gonna add in a little bit of brown sugar and also some coconut cream. You know, one of the things I find really interesting about Filipino adobo dishes is there's lots of different versions with coconut cream, without. This one has the coconut cream, obviously, and my goodness, it gets so lush and creamy at the end. I can't wait. Just hold on. You need to see the end. Okay, so now's the time to sit down, have a cup of tea, check your Instagram feed. We need an hour before this one is going to be ready for us. All right, so things are smelling uber delicious in my kitchen right now. I love that little scent of the bay leaf in here, so good. Now, check out how thick and glossy and creamy everything is. Now, all that's left to do is just pile this up into a big steaming bowl. So you could serve this with steamed rice, or I quite like a really crusty baguette with this one as well. Just want a little bit of tinkering at the end here, some spring onion and some red chili. It's mainly for color. The red chili isn't too spicy for this one. Now, the really beautiful thing about this dish is just how soft and tender and unctuously delish the pork is. So we need to do the spoon test, guys. Let's do the spoon test. If you pull out a piece of pork, you got to be able to get through it with a spoon and just have a look. Look at how soft that is. Yum. Now, to me, this is one of those dishes that you don't see getting a huge amount of likes on Instagram, or, you know, the photo isn't ridiculously pretty. It's just not. It's brown and it's slow braised, but can I tell you, honestly, the flavor, let me have a taste and I'll see. That flavor, it's tangy but creamy, and then you've got that beautiful slight hint of the bay leaf. The flavor tastes so complex, and then the pork itself is so soft and tender. Oh, wow. It's wow. Noodles stir-fried in a porky, chickeny kind of sauce. This is one epic one-pan dish you need to know how to make. My version of Filipino PANCIT BIHON noodles. Okay, I love this one because everything happens in the one pan. I don't even have to cook my noodles separately, so good. But there is a little trick that I've got for getting some extra flavor into these noodles, so just wait and see on that one. Now, in the Philippines, these are called PANCIT BIHON. If I've pronounced that incorrectly, someone will let me know, I'm sure. But the PANCIT BIHON refers to the type of noodle. So that's the rice vermicelli noodles, that's these ones here. But let's do our pork and chicken first. So I've got some pork belly here. And the reason I'm using pork belly is that I want to get a lot of flavor and fat from this pork belly, but I do want to remove the skin. So you just want to make a little incision in the top here, and then just hold your knife down and then wiggle the skin onto the knife, and that will make sure that we take off the skin without taking off too much of the fat. And then just slice that pork belly into little thin pieces. Now put your pork straight into a cold pan, because I want that heat to slowly start to render the fat from the pork. So while waiting for that to happen, I'll just grab my chicken thigh. Using thighs means we're going to get some extra fat and flavor here. And the chicken goes straight in as well. Just going to add a little pinch of salt here. So now that I've got some fierce sizzling going on, and I can see I'm starting to get some colour on the bottom, so this is everything a quick stir fry. Now that I've got that beautiful burnished colour, I'm going to remove the chicken and the pork, being sure to leave that fat behind in the pan. Okay, so now we're starting off with a base of flavour that we wouldn't have if we just used plain old oil. So to that, I'm going to add some garlic and some onion. And now some vegetables. You can use a mix of whatever kind of vegetables you've got at home. I've just got some carrot here and some snow peas and some Chinese cabbage as well. Now when those vegetables are just barely softened, I'm going to add in my soy sauce and some dark soy sauce. This is going to give us a really rich, beautiful colour. Some oyster sauce, a little touch of sugar, which I do find is quite necessary here to kind of counteract all those really salty flavours. Just gives it a little bit more depth. And then some chicken stock. Now at this point we add in our noodles. So these are going to go straight into our sauce. Just let them soak, flip them every now and then, and just like magic, they will soak up all of that flavour and become really tender. So after only a couple of minutes here, you can see that sauce has all but been absorbed by those noodles, and we're left with a beautifully flavor-packed noodle dish here. So now I'm going to add back in my pork and my chicken. I'm going to season that with a little bit of pepper, and some spring onions go in as well. Now just get those luscious noodles out onto a serving plate. And now to make the whole thing complete, just a little lime wedge here because that extra spritz of tang at the end is really delicious. So there you go guys, Filipino chicken and pork noodles, and all in one pan. So good. Squeeze of lime. Wow. You'll not believe the flavor that every single strand of noodle has in this dish. It's porky, it's chickeny, salty, crunchy, all the things. This is one epic noodle dish, guys. I can't wait for you to try it.